and holy cow, there's somebody sitting next to us. This hasn't happened in a while. We just had Coach McDermott here. Now we got GM Brandon Beane joining us. And I got to tell you, just like I told Sean, Brandon, it's just nice to have people next to us again. No masks on. We're face-to-face. We're not talking through a screen. This is great. How you doing?
I love it. I've learned things in the Zoom world that I will take and use here or there, but there's nothing better. Last night doing an interview, shaking a young man's hand, looking him in the eye, and just being able to talk and read the body language, feel the personality.
Right.
Sometimes a guy will grab the clicker in there if we're watching film. They're into it. You know what I mean? You can't do that in the Zoom world. Can we learn about the players? Sure, but there's nothing better than that in-person ability. And so I'm looking. We did 4 or 5 last night, and we got more tonight.
Yeah, you've got a long list, and the week's just getting started. But it is going to be a different kind of draft. You're drafting low, 25, which is you want to be 32.
Yeah.
But by the same token, you're going to have, I guess, 9 picks in this.
Yeah.
So you got to know all these guys all the way from top to bottom. There's 345 guys here. How many interviews are you going to do? Best case scenario.
Yeah. Well, so they let each team get 45 formals, but we also. They have what's called the informal session, and so last night when we had some coaches and scouts that didn't have to be in the formals, they were down at a different level, grabbing as many guys. It's speed.
Like trolling and fishing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you got a guy waiting, and as soon as the New York Jets are done with him, you grab your scout or coach grabs him and says, "All right, come over here, give me 10 to 15 minutes and tell me a little bit of this, talk ball." Try and get to feel their personality and then what they know and can they learn. Teach them a few things, see what they learn. Just anything that we still need to gather. A lot of the information that we have now is what we've been told, a scout or whatever in the fall about this player and his career. But we've never actually got to engage with the player, especially the underclassmen. We did some at the Senior Bowl, but this is an even better setting.
With the NFL schedule pushed back a whole week because of the extra game this year, this has really compressed the combine up against free agency. You guys are going to get out of here, and you're going to be 10 days away from free agency starting. So with that in mind, I know the last couple of years you've worked to create cap space through various means. Last year we know there was a restricted cap, or the previous year and stuff. This year, more back to where you probably hoped it would be. So how much work do you feel you have in front of you, Brandon, to create the cap space you feel you need to complete your to-do list in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're glad to see it increasing this year and not decreasing. But honestly, Chris, it's still lower than what it would have been.
Right.
If you think about, a couple years ago we were at 198. It would, at that point, would have probably gone to 208, 210.
Yeah.
We would have been well into, I would guess, 225 by now.
Right.
So it's going to be a multi-year process to truly recover. And so I think last year you saw more teams. I haven't really done it in my past much here of restructuring deals.
Right.
That's probably not totally out yet. And even though, not that I'll never do it, but it's something the less you have to do it, the stronger you can keep your cap options, where you're just not forced to keep a guy because he's more expensive to cut than to keep. So we still have to work our way. We've got moves. We've had some discussions. We'll have some more discussions, and then hopefully, by late next week when we get back, we'll start making some moves to get our cap where we need it, so that we can have the ammo or the resources to sign some guys in free agency. Some of it could be re-signing our own, but also, other guys from other teams.
Give us a little insight into the process you went through, refurbishing your coaching staff. Dayball's gone now. Joe Shane, your guy that's in your hip pocket for a couple of years, is gone now as well. You had to refurbish your staff on your side and also Sean's. I know you had a voice probably in Sean's choices, although I guess maybe it's his call ultimately. But you had a lot of work to do this offseason before you could even start thinking about who you were going to draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's Sean and I do a great job of, we both bounce off each other. Neither one of us, whether it's a trainer, a coach, a scout, whatever it is, we just both have been around it. We've both seen it. So we work in concert on all those, and yeah, it's definitely from the first things first. Let's get our coaching staff settled. Which we did. Took some time. ultimately we're able to promote some guys from within, in Ken Dorsey and at the OC and Matt Smiley at the special teams, and then filled in, Joe Brady, who I had not been around. Joe had heard great things about from people that knew him at college, people that knew him when he was in New Orleans, on Sean Payton's staff before he went to LSU, and then I came from Carolina. I'd heard really good things from him there. I know it didn't go well for that organization this year, but felt like really wasn't on Joe, and so he's a bright young mind and that has not been in this system, but Ken Dorsey had not been in this system. He kind of learned it, and he'll put his own tweaks on it. Everybody kind of tweaks how they do things, but it will allow us to have the continuity for Josh and our offense as they come back, and Aaron Cromer, who second time around is a Buffalo Bill, but Cromer, Ryan Wendell we have on staff. Ryan has been kind of working with him and Dorsey, blending in what the protection calls will be. So we're just kind of getting all that stuff. But continuity and keeping things as similar for Josh in this offense is the goal. And so even though we've lost a lot of people, I don't feel a lot's going to change, for Josh for the most part.
Yeah. Flipping it over to the defensive side of the ball, Brandon, I know in your season wrap-up press conference you said, I'm going to probably be taking a look at defense here first. And from a sheer numbers standpoint, that makes sense to me. I mean, you look at your unrestricted free agents, you've got 6-7 guys on expiring contracts on your defensive line alone. From a sheer numbers standpoint, how urgent a situation is that to address? And would you consider Harrison Phillips a top priority based on his age, entering the prime of his career, and the production he gave you at the end of last year?
Yeah, I mean, we love Harry, and I've always said we love to draft, develop, and re-sign. Yep. So we were able to do that with Saran last week. But Harrison's hit free agency, and I think his guys want to get a good feel for his value, and he's earned that right. And so we'll stay in touch with them. And would we love to have him back? Yes, of course. We love Harry. We're proud of the development he's made. He's had a couple injuries along the way, and even this year he got hurt in the Chicago preseason game when he was starting to take a step up, and that kind of derailed him for a little bit. But when Zimmer went out with the ACL, I thought Harrison really was ready to roll and kind of did a nice job, the second half of the year, and Starr hit COVID. So he and Ed settled in nice. So, the D-line, though, as a whole, Chris, we definitely, how important that is to me.
Yeah.
You got to have a quarterback, but you also got to have the guys to get after the opposing team's quarterback. And if we're going to get where we need to get to beat some of these top quarterbacks in the AFC, we got to be strong up there. And you saw that in our draft last year. And, again, every year, even if we didn't have 3 or 4 unrestricted free agents in there, I'd still be looking, are there chances to upgrade it? Where do we do it? And I think it's just an area you never say, oh, I'm never going to relax and say, we got the D-line settled. We run them in waves. And unless I got 8 Pro Bowlers, I'm not relaxing.
Right. Well, what is your priority this year? I mean, you go in, and I know that you've said in the past, and it's a common philosophy around the league, in free agency, if you want the money to spend, obviously, to fill in all the holes in your roster so that when the draft comes, you pick the best guy, whatever position, the guy's going to have the greatest pro career on the board. That's the guy you want.
Yep.
Doesn't always work that way because everybody else is on the same plan. Mm-hmm. Give us an idea of your philosophy, like one step past that. We've seen you in the last 2 or 3 drafts. You're getting guys that look like pro football players. I mean, you got Rousseau, you got, Spencer.
Football players. Some of them look like they're not on this planet.
Yeah. And Tremaine Edmonds and Josh, these guys with elite physical traits.
Yeah.
It seems to be a thing. And Ed Oliver, an explosive, athlete. The guys up front, and I've told Brownie this a lot. The guys, athletes, you can harvest those guys like wheat.
Yeah.
The rare ones, the big, huge, big athletes are like redwoods. Those aren't as prominent.
No doubt.
You got to find those guys in the draft. Is that kind of true when you look at the philosophy of your draft?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for, we put prototype size and speed and measurements on all our positions and what we're looking for, and we also do it. What's the average starting center look like in the league? Let's look at what are their grades and just don't look at the Bills. What does the average defensive end look like in a 4-3 and a defensive tackle? What the guys with 10+ sacks, what are their? You're just trying to look at all the things, and so you're putting that in, but everything else has got to be there. The intangibles, the work habits. Success. Have they had success at the college level? If you're talking about a draft, if you're talking about free agency, what has been their success level at the pros? And I would love for them all to come out looking like Greg Rousseau, Tremaine Edmonds, Josh Allen, those prototype. When they match up with the mental, the pro habits, the intangibles, and they can play that position, those are some of the easier ones to make. It's the exceptions, and in some ways, you mentioned Ed. Ed in his own right is a little bit of an exception,
right?
Because he's undersized, doesn't have the length that maybe you would want. But guess what he does? Similar to how Kyle Williams was not. Look how long Kyle played. 13 years? So smart, so instinctive. Get off, could read what the guys were doing. Kyle, I was talking to Kyle one time, and he was just talking about how one of the things he learned as he grew is just how that guard would just snap. He kind of knew whether he was pulling, whether he was getting in a pass set, or whether he was about to come off and knock him in the mouth. And just little things like that. And those are the things that Ed is picking up and growing. And Ed's unique explosiveness that you mentioned, his quick twitch, allow him to succeed and overcome the lack of height and length that we cherish when we're looking for guys.
Right.
This is also a week where sometimes you do get some time with player agents for some of your own free agents and stuff. Any dialogue with the Isaiah McKenzie camp?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have talked to, in some form or fashion, with pretty much all of our free agent guys of, hey, let's stay in touch. Some maybe we've talked about, number of years or proposal or anything like that, and that's how it got started with Saran. And sometimes you get someone who's ready to act now. We know what we want. Saran was very clear. If you guys can get in the right ballpark and we worked it out, I'm ready to try and get it done. Mm-hmm. Some guys, Chris, they want to say, hey, let me just fill out the market a little bit. Let me make sure if you think I'm in this area, I just want to make sure you're right. You know what I mean? Before
playing the long game.
They want to know. It really is about, as a former player, it's really about knowing how much the league respects you that way.
Yeah.
What does everybody think? I know you guys like me. What does everybody else? Is there somebody out there who loves me?
Yeah, that's exactly
that kind
right.
of thing. I just want to feel what the amount of respect I have in the NFL. I want to find out.
Yeah.
Because particularly a guy like Saran Neal. It's surprising me. It really is a testament to you guys that he didn't want to find out how much other people like. He got guys lining 3 guys.
Well, they
up
also
on
got in the right ballpark. I mean,
Right.
that was a nice contract for Saran.
Right.
Yeah.
If he really wanted to see what he was worth, that would have been a guy who would have had that itch to say, listen, I don't get recognized by the Pro Bowl, don't get recognized by All Pro, and I want to find out that those kind of curiosity things are sometimes what makes a guy go out into free agency and say, I just want to see what they think.
Yeah. No, I think it definitely is. Like, listen, you've got agents, you've got family, you've got all sorts of people in your ear. Well, this player got this. Why aren't you here? And so, yeah, you're right. All it takes is one team that maybe 30 of us say this is a $5 million player, but one team says, man, if I had player X, I'll pay him 7.5 to 8 a year, right. And they find that team, and so I get it. It's I don't want someone signing who feels like they're not getting the fairest deal that they can get. Right. That's not a good thing either. You don't really win by, oh man, we hosed them over, we got them on some bad deal, because guess what? They're going to be upset. They really are, and a month from now or 2 months from now, and they're going to be calling you back saying, hey, you guys got me at a weak moment, or I fired my agent. Yeah. You never should have agreed to that.
Last one real quick, because we got to get going here, because we know you got other obligations. Draft appears to be flush with pass rushers, even at the very top of this draft. What other positions offer good depth this year?
I think there's a lot, to be honest with you. I don't see this draft having that everybody fighting to get in the top 5, top 6, like the Chase Youngs, the Myles Garrett, or some of these top quarterbacks that have gone. Mm-hmm. I don't see that. But what I do see is depth. And I think, are you going to get a player? You may get a player at, let's say we're at 25, that some people may have at 12. and vice versa. I think it's going to be more, what's your flavor? What are you looking for as you build your team? I mean, you look at Rousseau a year ago at this time, a lot of people had him higher. He didn't test as well on his pro day. He set out for COVID. Various things happen to why guys fall. We're just looking for the best football players, and I do think there's multiple positions. You know, I think there's depth at corner. I think there's depth at O-line. I think there's depth in various positions of the D-line, whether you're looking for 4-3 or some 3-4 guys. So receivers every year.
Yeah, right. That's an annual thing now.
With all the passing academies, 7-on-7s, I definitely think there's going to be receivers. There's some tight ends as well in this draft.
And it seems, and this is the theme of the last one for you, speed seems to be something that, you know, you're always looking at the teams that got to get teams look, how are we going to beat you guys, the Bills, and you're thinking, how are we going to beat the Chiefs, stay ahead up with the Bengals, and who's going to, you know, the Chargers are on their way up, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it looks like, you know, if you want to have a chance of beating a team like Kansas City, well, you know, I thought you were good enough to beat them, and you were in this AFC Championship game, let alone this last time.
Yeah.
So what about, you know, putting more speed on the field at different positions and some of the other things that maybe you're putting on a higher premium because, you know, you're this close?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're always looking for speed, Steve. You know that it's important. And they, you know, when you talk about a Tyreek Hill, that, you know, he's a unicorn from a speed standpoint. It's hard to find that from that standpoint. But overall, you know, we're going to look for good football players, and anytime we can find one of those 4-3 guys, we'll sign them up.
Yeah. Thanks for the time as always, Brandon. Good luck getting your work done this week.
Appreciate it.
All right,
seeing you guys.
That's Bills GM Brandon Beane joining us here on One Bills Live.